policy interventions, like in year 1995, we established a new policy for education and training, which kind of overhauls our thinking for higher education. And for the first time, we enabled higher education institutions to kind of be liberalized and not strictly be run by government, and invite private sector participation in provision of higher education in our country. Also to enable these institutions of higher learning now to be governed and run using their own charters, as opposed to what we used to do, have several acts of parliament to guide and lead establishment and running of higher education institutions in our country, with very positive results. Of course, we also established higher education policy, which is kind of a subset of education and training policy of 1995, which again zoomed into the specifics of establishment and running of higher education in our country. We're very proud that with these with government interventions at policy level, we've been able to address the issue of access and also the issue of equity. Not completely successful until now, but we've gone a long way into fulfilling our goals, or achieving what the population of Tanzania would like to see: more and more children of workers and peasants of this country accessing higher education, and more girls of this country accessing higher education, as opposed to what used to be the really tiny portion of girls being able to get into higher education. Well, we worked with positively on access. Equity is something that needs to be addressed positively and clearly. We clearly in the draft education and training policy of this country that we are developing now, and I would like to say that soon we're going to make a presentation to chief executives of our higher institutions of learning across the country. We're collecting all of them in one forum, present to them this policy, and I could tell you one of the things that is focal for us is achieving equity. And this is paramount in the work that we want to do in the coming years. And it's going to be very clear, even in the strategy that will follow policy formulation, the policy formulation, and the strategy for implementation of the policy will be very clear on the strategies for equity achievement in especially higher education, because we have no problem in basic education equity. Right now, if you look at primary education enrollment, there are more girls than boys, and we are starting to have big problems with boys' education. Dropouts tends to be more on boys, and academic performance is becoming less with boys. Boys in girls in basic education, this is primary, especially primary education, the 7-year primary education, they are doing much better than the boys. But then the trouble is when you come to higher education, the numbers now fall out and the percentage fall out, and right now in higher education we have an estimate of 32% participation of female in higher education. So you have more than 60% being male. And this is an area that you say, if they can do well in basic education, which are the factors that inhibit girls from achieving higher education? Why do they stay away from higher education? Why do they shun away from science and technology, where we want the bright minds of all the youngsters in this country, be them boys or be them girls? So the new policy that we're formulating will address squarely the issue of equity in higher education. It's not the administration or management in higher education, leaders in higher education. We want to develop leaders in higher education as opposed to administrators and managers of higher education. Yeah, the issue of jobs in our country is very important because more and more of our institutions are involving the stakeholders to participate in education delivery in their institutions, like industry, like the private sector, like other sectors who finally employ or absorb those students coming or graduates coming from those universities. They take a part in developing curriculum and also in trying and assisting those institutions. For example, if you take technical areas like engineering, I mean, you don't have a good engineer if he's not hands-on. But before these engineers graduate, industry should be ready to take them on industrial placement. Like during their study, they do industrial placement. They have got to practice what they learn in university or in college. And finally, when they graduate, one, they have the practice. Number two, they actually have been in those areas of work where they're supposed to work. So they really know that what they're learning is directly employable in industry where they're going. So industry participation in curriculum development and industry participation in assisting universities and colleges achieve what they want to achieve in industry, like have the people who will be ready and able to take on jobs the first day they get into industry. Actually, I'm very proud. Here in Arusha, there's a good example in the Arusha Technical College, whereby a large-scale farmer has availed his farm as a laboratory for agricultural students in Arusha Technical College. So, portion of the study time, they go to the farm, they operate the harvesters, they operate tractors, they operate all farm machinery which they learn theoretically in the college. You know, harvesters are very expensive. We can ill afford having them, you know, at the college. But when this farm is kind of an extended classroom, and for that matter, free of charge, this farmer is not charging anything to the college. It's part of his industry participation in education. And graduates coming out there, certainly they, you know, find ready employment there. So, so this is how we've been able to address the issue of taking away the bottlenecks of training somebody who will be immediately useful to industry. Country like Singapore, or take other newly developed countries, one thing you find that graduates who come out there, they tend to create jobs, and they're more job creators. So, and everybody who creates a job for himself or herself, many times they create jobs for others, because they find that they cannot do, you know, what they want to do by themselves, so they have to get workers, get somebody else. Now in Singapore, you have so many job creators to the extent that job seekers, it's a job seeker paradise, because there are just too many jobs around. I mean, you have so many job creators, and you can change a job today and find a more paying job tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So in countries like us, like Tanzania, where we have big bulge of youth. So this is an area that we will be focusing more and more with our higher education institutions. We want them to develop programs that develop entrepreneurial graduates, graduates who have entrepreneurial tendencies, who would be able, graduates who are enterprising. Even if they come to government to work, you know, if they can work in a way with characteristics of entrepreneur, even government work will work even better, because this guy is more innovative. He seeks for results. He is persistent to the job he's doing because he's focused to a goal. He networks, and certainly is able to achieve more than people who don't have what we call entrepreneurial characteristics embedded in them. Social cohesion is an issue in our country. We are very mindful to keep Tanzania as one united Republic of Tanzania and not a fragmented Republic of Tanzania. We are blessed in this country to have the founding father of the country, the late Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, who put special emphasis on a united Republic of Tanzania, a united people, one country, or one nation. And he led the country, making sure that the government did all it can to establish and maintain social cohesion in the country. We grew up, we're blessed with one language across the country. It's a huge country, almost 1 million square kilometers large, and a fairly big population, compared to a number of other countries in Africa. But everybody speaks the same language: north, south, east, west, and this is a unifying characteristic which puts us together, whether you're a Maasai, or you're a Mzaramo from the coast, or you're a Mdigo, or you're Ngoni from the south, Sukuma from the north. We all speak one language, and the government business is done in Kiswahili. That's a good blessing, and that has been a good ingredient in social cohesion of the country. In the yesteryears, cohesion has not been a big issue, but as we develop further year after year, now some tendencies are coming in whereby tribe starts coming up, religion is starting coming up. It's not as bad as it's in other countries, but I think we need to make sure that our youth are able to maintain a climate of cohesion among themselves and be good leaders for maintaining social cohesion in the country for the years to come, because they're the people who are taking up this country. They're the leaders of today, actually. Not all, I can't say they're the leaders of tomorrow, because they're in higher education institutions. They influence, they talk to everyone, and they're the ones who would finally, when they graduate, come into positions of leadership, and they're the ones who would make a difference. So what we are trying to do in government is, like, again, at policy level, we put the education policy, and now we're revising it. We're in the process of revising the 1995 education training policy. And in the new policy, we really want to drive on making sure that education serves the socio-economic development of this country. And one very important aspect is peace and harmony in the country. You don't get peace if people are not one. if you cannot maintain social cohesion of the country. So at policy level, we are going to put elements such that which enables development of curriculum, development, establishment of universities or higher learning institutions that are conducive to maintaining and succeeding in maintaining social cohesion.